The boy Zhilei Zhang stops Joe Joyce by knockout. It was a doctor's stoppage, knockout, KO, TKO, whatever you want to call it. We gonna talk about it. What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Just watched Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang. It was on ESPN Plus, Queensberry Promotions, and Joe Joyce just got stopped. Not only did he get stopped, I'm gonna break it down, give you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly. I thought it was, kind of a poor performance from Joe Joyce. He didn't look good, but then again, I think a lot of it has to do with his style, because in the end, he looked like he always does in fights, but this fight was a bit different. The big difference makers is Zhilei Zhang is a southpaw, and the southpaw, we all know in boxing, southpaws typically give orthodox fighters a run for their money, or at least like big problems. And that was definitely the case. I mean, the way Joe Joyce lacks defense, he had the boy Zhilei Zhang looking like Manny Pacquiao. Not as fast, not as dynamic, but he was just landing straight lefts. Now, one thing I thought was concerning was a couple rounds in, they had came with the statistic, and they said that Joe Joyce had been hit with 50% of Zhang's punches. That's not good. I mean, that's half. That means, so for every 100 punches you throw, you land 50. That's not good in boxing, right? That means you lack defense, no head movement, not moving your head from the center line, things of that sort. And typically, unless you get knocked out, the person who has like these 50, 60% landed power punches are the winner of the fight, unless, of course, the person was doing all that work and then they get knocked out or something, or get robbed on the scorecards. But more often than not, that's a pretty, I don't always rely on CompuBox, but sometimes CompuBox is dead on. And either way, that's not a good statistic to have, right? We're talking about Shakur Stevenson, guys like that, where they land all their shots and then they have a tight defense, so their opponents can't land on Shakur, but he can land on them, right? In the same range. So it just was a bad night for Joe Joyce. Zhang, I give him a ton of credit. He said he's the big bang, and, he showed that. He was in there banging, pause. He was landing the bigger, harder shots. And on paper, if you look at it stylistically, this was always kind of an uphill battle or difficult fight for Joe Joyce, because Joe Joyce is slow and a slow starter. And you've seen that in fights like with Joseph Parker, where Parker's doing some good work early, but since he has that chin and he's like a tank and keeps coming forward, if you start to fade, then that's where he starts to come on mid to late rounds and, really put it on. Or like in the Daniel Dubois fight, Dubois' eyes started going away and started getting nailed shut, so it kept getting harder and harder to see the punches. And I tweeted this. Make sure you guys follow me at Boxingego on Twitter. But I don't know exactly what round. I tweeted that early on in the fight that Joe Joyce was starting to look very Daniel Dubois-ish. And that's obviously an ode to his fight with Joe Joyce. And Daniel Dubois had pretty much the same eye. Post-fight, after I mentioned this tweet, you heard Joe Joyce say something like that, like, oh, this is karma because I did this to Daniel Dubois' eye and I got it done to me. And then he said, never mind. And, it was kind of an awkward joke, but I called it. His eye was looking very Daniel Dubois-ish. And you can look at the timestamps and everything, but after that moment, his eye kept getting progressively worse. The swelling was there. It was turning purple. And that's why the doctors stopped it. They stopped it because his eye took too much punishment. I do think it was kind of weird because it was in one round. It took 2 doctors' visits in the middle of the round, and then they cleared him, and then he was getting hit with some big shots, and then they paused the action again and said, oh, go talk to the doctor. So for me, it really felt like a hometown setup, like they didn't want to see their fighter get beat up worse or get knocked out worse because he wasn't winning any of the rounds. So they kind of spared him from like future or further embarrassment or the inevitable, which was Zhilei Zhang possibly like getting an actual stoppage or like dropping him, and they didn't want. It's like they didn't want those pictures circulating on the net. Like Joe Joyce has built up this reputation of being a tank and iron-chinned and stuff like that. So if the doctors stop it, then that's a little bit of saving face, if that makes sense to you. Because it's like, oh, the doctors intervened and, you know, he wanted to keep fighting on, things like that. And another thing I thought was weird was they said, how many hands am I holding up? And Joe Joyce said one. The doctor had one finger up and he promptly responded, and then they still stopped the fight, right? And again, his eye was looking very bad, but I mean, I've been to fights live where it looked like that, if not worse. One that comes to mind on a Manny Pacquiao versus Adrian Broner card that I was at was Badu Jack. He was bleeding profusely into his eyes with the cut from his forehead versus Marcus Brown. It was disgusting. It was crazy. And they let that fight go on and on and on. So I think they kind of pulled the trigger. We've seen other fighters kind of be given more opportunity. And the same referee just had a premature stoppage like last week. That was on the Anthony Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin card. It was Fabio Wardley versus Michael Coffey. And Michael Coffey, he looked like he could have continued, like whether he's winning the round, losing the round, he literally could have continued. Eyes were focused, and Howard Foster, the referee, stopped it. And he did it with Carl Froch and George Groves in the first fight. So I don't know what's up with the UK. I definitely wouldn't want to fight a UK guy in the UK. That's just me personally, because it always seems to be the case. Like it's always some weird mumbo jumbo stoppage, and I'm not a fan of that. So despite his eye really being in bad shape, I've seen worse. And the fact that, like, what's the point of asking the question, how many fingers am I holding up, and going through these drills, and then he cooperates and then you still stop it. So UK, again, with some questionable stoppages, it looked like they wanted to preserve Joe Joyce's reputation from potential further embarrassment. He was losing all the rounds, really wasn't his night, didn't know how to deal with the Southpaw, nor did he have the defense to kind of stay away from the punches, and he was getting zapped with some big shots. So congratulations to Zhilei Zhang, shakes up the heavyweight division. Bad and ugly, I don't have too much bad and ugly. I will say the ESPN commentary is bloody awful. It's horrible. Like I just hear, like Bradley was saying something like, oh, Joe Joyce is starting to get into a rhythm. And then seconds later, Joe Joyce gets hit with big shots and buckled and staggered around. And that was kind of the tempo of the fight after Bradley just said to the audience that he was getting into a rhythm. Then post-fight, after Zhang wins, he keeps saying, oh, I told you. That's what I told you. See, when I say I told you, it's because I really told you. I don't like when people say I told you and they really didn't tell you. You were saying stuff like Joe Joyce is starting to get into a rhythm, Zhilei Zhang. They were saying, not just Bradley, but on the telecast, they were saying stuff like Zhang fades and fights and Zhang hasn't had a knockout past the 5th round. This is the commentary that they were giving us. And then once the outcome is rendered and Zhang pulls the upset, then Bradley's like, I told you. And that's really not what he was saying throughout the telecast. They kept focusing on Zhang getting tired. And my thing is this, I've done commentary on boxing for over a decade now. I'm the best in the business. And sometimes saying less is more. Like if you listen to the Boxingego watch parties, if there's nothing really to add, you don't have to foreshadow or tell the fans stuff that isn't happening. Like the reality is Zhang was fighting at a comfortable, sustainable pace. So why do you keep referencing that he fades and fights and fades and fights? That's not what is happening right before us. Like he don't look like he's fading. So you reiterating that and saying that a bunch of times is kind of pointless and redundant unless you were seeing signs of it. And I didn't see that. He landed like 50% of his power shots. Best in the business. That's my thoughts. Congrats to Zhang. Joe Joyce, he got to work on his defense. And I'm out. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxingego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new interactive and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.